Hello and welcome to True Audio Files. Today, as you could see by the title, I am going to be giving you some impressions of a couple of new Miles Davis Supervinyl reissues that just came out. The ones I am talking about specifically that I just received in the mail this week are Roundabout Midnight and On the Corner. Both, again, were pressed on Supervinyl. They're reissues. They had already previously made them on vinyl before, but they are recut. These are new cuts, so they're not the old cut. And then pressed onto the new Supervinyl, so it would be, in theory, quieter. And I wanted to give my impressions. I do have the On the Corner from the previous reissue, where it wasn't on Supervinyl. I don't have the Roundabout Midnight one. I don't know why I never bought that one. Maybe because I do have a Kevin Gray one that was done. This was probably 6 to 8 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. But this is basic. This specific version I have here was part of the mono series that came out back then. This one actually was a pre-release, if you will, for Record Store Day, and is actually a numbered one. Got number 2952. I want to say they had 5,000, but I can't remember how many they pressed. It may have even been less than that. But anyways, that's I don't know why, but it's the only other version of Roundabout Midnight I have, which kind of surprised me when I went searching through my titles. So I may have to try to find a early pressing if I can. But anyways, I'll talk more about that in detail. But the biggest thing I wanted to talk about here on this is kind of how the Supervinyl sounds. One of the issues I've been having, if you've been following me on my channel recently, is I've been having some issues with a lot of the most recent Mofi releases where they've had some sibilance. And now, full transparency, I don't think I've had any sibilance on any of the jazz titles I've had. So it's been mainly like the rock and folky ones, like I had, I think I've had it on the Bruce Springsteen one steps. I've had it on the last Joni Mitchell reissue. I've also had it on Van Halen 2 and some Run DMC as well. So anyways, I wanted to kind of give you some information on these. So talk about the potential of if there was any sibilance on them, but also in the case of the On the Corner, compare it to the original Mofi release. So in terms of sibilance, I would say that I have not been able to pick up on any sibilance on either of these two on the new releases, which is great news, which is kind of been the track record for the jazz reissues that I've been getting recently from Mofi. So they tended not to have any sibilance. And they were certainly super, super quiet, which I was very happy about. It seems to be, this is probably stretching it a little bit. It seems like kind of a crapshoot about how quiet they really are, though. Recently I've noticed that some of the Supervinyl that I've gotten they've certainly been very quiet, but they haven't necessarily been as quiet as I'd expect. Well, these two were really, really quiet, especially Roundabout Midnight. Very, very, very quiet. And both were definitely quieter than the two versions that I kind of compared them to. So I would say if you're talking about the original On the Corner versus the new Supervinyl version, I could not hear audibly a difference at all from a EQ perspective, mastering, or any of that kind of stuff. They were even cut nearly identical. There may have been a half a dB off, but even that might be stretching it. They pretty much sounded identical. The biggest noticeable difference that I heard was during the dead spots, during the quiet spots, between tracks, things like that. And actually, mainly between tracks, because I would say the tape hiss from the original master tapes might even be a little bit noisier than the vinyl that on both of these. Even though the original Mofi was definitely pretty noisy in comparison. Now, it still was quiet, relatively quiet, but it certainly was noticeably noisier than the Supervinyl. When it came to the Roundabout Midnights, just to give you a little bit of background on that, yeah, I did do some comparison back and forth very briefly. I would say they're nearly identical. The Mofi may have had, from an EQ perspective, that is, the Mofi was cut a little quieter, so it wasn't quite as loud. But one of the advantages of the Supervinyl was even though I had to turn the volume up on my preamp, it actually still sounded quieter. The surface noise sounded quieter than it did on the other reissue, the Kevin Gray reissue. So, and that's and that's only very little anyways. There was very little. There wasn't a ton of surface noise on the Columbia reissue that Kevin Gray cut. So it wasn't like there was a ton there either, but it was clearly louder than what is on the Supervinyl. So I guess my take on it is, if a quiet, super quiet pressing is what you're after, there's no hesitation in my mind that you want these ones, because these are the quietest I've heard these in terms of the surface noise on them. In terms of the sound quality differences, that I would say, from EQ, mastering, that kind of stuff, I can't say that I could hear much of a difference. So if you already have the original Mofi, on the corner, that is, I can't say that you're going to notice a difference from an EQ perspective on the new one. And that's been kind of my assessment on all of them. They've all sounded nearly identical. There may have been some very minor differences, but it's very subtle. Where the biggest difference has been on the actual surface noise aspect of it, and how it was quieter on the Supervinyl. And when it comes to the Roundabout Midnight, boy, these sounded really, really close too. I mean, the Mofi Supervinyl may have had a little bit more treble, and like I said, it wasn't cut as loud, but that's, just means you have to turn up your preamp receiver, whatever it is, a little bit more. And quite honestly, because of how quiet the Supervinyl is, it was still quieter from a surface noise perspective, even though I had to turn it up, than this version, which I think the regular versions of these, the non-numbered versions, I think they're still available, but I'm not certain. So there, you might be able to get, and if they're not, I apologize, I didn't do any research, but I would think you might be able to get it for cheaper than the Supervinyl one. So if you can get it for cheaper, it's definitely going to be a better value. And I would say the surface noise, at least on the one that I have, is not is not noticeable, not that noticeable once the music starts to kick in, even during the quiet parts of the music. So I would say that, it's going to be very minor in terms of a difference between the two of them. And if you can get it for cheaper, then that would be your better value. But I got to say that, the Supervinyl is awesome. If you just want a super quiet vinyl and a good quality mastering / cut, both of these Supervinyls are the way to go. So I think they're still both readily available too. So I would say jump on them if you want a super quiet, great sounding mastering, and you don't already have a good copy. They're good go-to ones. So that is everything I have for this week, and I hope to have some other stuff later. I actually am going to be on a business trip later this week, but I know that I've got a Atlantic 75 Mingus coming in the mail, which will probably get here right about when I get home from my business trip, and hopefully I can do an A/B comparison on that and do a video for that. If there's any other types of videos that you guys want to see, I mean, I would love to hear from you on these. When I look at the views that I get, I tend to get the most views when I do these kind of sound quality shootouts and comparison videos between different things. I would love to do other topics, but they just don't seem to have the pull that the sound quality shootouts do. So let me hear from you. Tell me what you would like me to talk about besides these sound quality shootouts, because I'd love to hear your feedback. So that's everything I've got. So I want to thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button if you like the video. Sign up for my, become a subscriber. I'd love to see you as a subscriber. And that is everything I've got. So you guys have yourself a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week. Thanks a lot.